Pablo Salas might seem an unlikely chef to be having an impact on Mexico City's culinary scene. Well, that's because his restaurant Amaranta isn't exactly in Mexico City. It's in a town that's about an hour outside called Toluca. But more and more people are starting to realize it's worth the drive to taste his menu. I took a walk through the local Santiago Tianguistengo Market with him. It'd been years since I'd been there myself, and he was a great guide.
Okay, different like municipios.
Municipios.
Yeah.
So they're all fresh water. And then this is the one.
De rana.
I feel like that you could learn as much about a chef walking through a market with him as you can by actually tasting his food. Pablo wanted to cook a dish for me that was oxtail in mole, and this was a great place for us to get all the stuff that he needed.
You are just so incredibly lucky to live with all of this beauty. It's spectacular.
Yeah, I know. I realized that like 5 years ago
Yeah.
when we decided to do Amaranta. And then when I realized that we have a lot of ingredients and a lot of things that we can make a lot of cuisine with all this, we changed the way we were.
I'm glad you did.
So I haven't been to that market in Tianguistengo for 20-some years. And what I remember the most about it was a taco of wild greens made on a fresh-made blue corn tortilla and a salsa of arbol chili, a little of the local fresh cheese on it, and it changed my life. I'd never tasted anything like that. I'd never tasted a taco that was so elemental and beautiful and nourishing. And when I got there today, it was like that taco come to life. There's just all these herbs and greens and everything in such great abundance. And my mind went immediately back to that. I love this place for that. Pablo's menu at Amaranta isn't just Mexican food. It's Mexiquense food. The dishes revolve around what's locally available here in the state of Mexico. And as Pablo's reputation has grown, the delicious food here has drawn more and more people from outside the local area to try it.
So what do we do with this oxtail?
Oxtail. All right, we're gonna start cut it.
To prepare the oxtail, once the fatty exterior has been removed, Pablo cuts through the tail at the joints. Those sections are then poached in water for about 2 hours with a little garlic, onion, thyme, bay leaves, marjoram, and salt. The basis for this mole is chile manzano. It's a local fresh chili that's really spicy.
There's some cool stuff about them because they have these black seeds.
Yeah.
It's kind of the only chili that is in the Mexican repertoire that has black seeds. When you smell them,
Yeah.
they just smell so fruity.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Fruity, yeah. That's the taste of the mole, I think so.
Nice.
The seeds and veins of the chili are removed, and the rest is soaked in water, vinegar, and salt to remove a little of the chili's heat. Next, he peels some plantain and slices it up before frying. Once the plantains are ready, he also fries some day-old bread. Tomatoes are next. He likes to cut out their cores before placing them in boiling water very briefly, just about 10 seconds. Then they're removed and placed into ice water to immediately stop any cooking. And finally, the tomato skins are removed, and he slices the tomatoes into quarters. He slices up some onion and puts that in a cazuela with vegetable oil. Then the chile manzanos go in, followed by the garlic, tomatoes, fried plantains, fried bread, and some sesame seeds. After that is cooked down for a few minutes, he adds some chicken stock and lets it all simmer. Is it hard having a restaurant in Toluca?
Yeah, I've been working here in this restaurant for 10 years.
For 10 years, but it's your family restaurant,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, but it was, how was it different before you made it into Amaranta?
It was like international cuisine.
I see.
We used to do that, and I decided to do like regional cuisine because we have a lot
But
of
regional contemporary.
yeah
cuisine.
contemporary. But my inspiration comes from the market, also. So we make some things really traditional, like the moles, the salsas, all the adobos are traditional. We just like maybe blend it really well and put a little bit of potato or something like that to get together.
You and I are on the same page. That's exactly what I do. And I want it to be texturally just smooth and velvety.
I like
And
that.
you've got your blender
Yeah.
here so that we can blend this sauce and make it beautiful
Yeah.
and smooth.
Yeah, I like to do that, and I think that helps with the presentation.
And do you think you would ever take Amaranta cuisine to Mexico City?
No, I think like I cannot do this like in another place. This is Toluca, this is state of Mexico. I born here. I go to the market here. The people know me here. They gave me the best product. And go to the DF. I would love to go to the DF or to do something else. Maybe with my ingredients, but not to say like it's Mexiquense, like from a region, but using a lot of my ingredients because I know them. So,
I think your food is incredibly delicious and it tastes just like this place right here.
yeah, that's what we're trying to do, like, because we don't have any other restaurants to show our food. That's why we decided to do this, and we're really proud to do that.
Very cool. It's time for us to blend
Yeah.
this, I think, right? After the mole ingredients had cooked together for 15 minutes or so, they're placed in a blender along with some cinnamon and in a bit of a twist, some white chocolate. Okay, so because you're making a mole that's not with dried chilies, but you wanted to put chocolate in it, so you put white chocolate in it? Okay. I want to smell it. Set that down there. So it's got the fruitiness, like you said. It's got the toasty, sesame, nutty kind of flavor in there. A little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of cinnamon. It smells very mole-like, but very light.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
The mole goes back in the cazuela to cook a little bit longer, and then it's ready for plating with the oxtail.
Here we have the oxtail that we cook it for 3 hours.
Yeah. And then did you pull the meat off of the bone?
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of coarse shreds.
Yeah.
He adds some salt-cured nopal cactus, some sliced tomatoes, fava beans, a little bit of aged cheese that's sort of like a cotija, fried tortilla strips, a few small sprouts of cilantro, and finally, a little bit of olive oil to top it all off. I can't wait to dig in.
Okay, sure.
That mole is extraordinary. But the nuttiness with the fruitiness that's in there, and I have to say, I was not convinced that the white chocolate was going to be good in there, but the white chocolate is really good in there.
Yeah, it
Wow,
works.
congratulations. That's beautiful. Pablo's got this amazing smile, and his eyes just open wide when he's talking about his food or tasting something. And I've heard from other people he's wonderful to work for, incredibly nurturing, and I think that's why everybody in Mexico City always includes him in everything, because they love to have him around. He's not only a talented chef, but he's also just a good person, and well, he represents Mexico really well. This part of the state of Mexico is known for its great chorizo. Pablo took me to one of the best places in the area where it's made fresh on site.
Here at Carniceria La Alianza, they begin the process of making chorizo by grinding the meat. They use a combination of different cuts of pork depending on how expensive the chorizo will be. The next step is to combine that ground pork with a wide variety of seasonings in a huge mixer. They add red wine, almonds, raisins, pine nuts, and powdered spices and chilies, including some chipotles. Once that is all combined, the meat mixture is placed into this giant casing machine. The pork casing is kept in salt water until the chorizo is ready to be cased. It's an amazing and amazingly fast process.
When you think about what chorizo is, really, it's just ground pork mixed with that classic Mexican red chili marinade called an adobo. And if you know how to make the adobo, well, you could create your own chorizo at your house in a flash. Now, I'm going to show you the easiest way I know to make an adobo. Usually they start with dried chilies. This is an ancho. Some people use this one or the dried guajillo chili or a combination of different chilies. Everybody's got their own recipe. But what I'm going to show you is really more accessible. I'm going to make it with a dried ancho powder, which is accessible to everyone. You can buy it online, specialty grocery stores. And I'm going to measure a half cup of this powder into my blender jar. In that goes. And I need a cup and a quarter of boiling water. Pour that in and blend until mixed. While that chili is rehydrating, I like the mellower flavor of blanched garlic, so I'm going to peel 8 cloves of garlic. Collect all of the garlic in a small dish. Cover it with water, put it in the microwave, and cook it at full power for 1 minute. Drain off the water. I'm going to add that to the blender jar, and I'm going to measure in 3 tablespoons of vinegar. You could use distilled white vinegar for a clean, clear taste, or apple cider vinegar for one that's a little bit more developed. 1/8 of a teaspoon of cumin goes in there. I think that's a powerful flavor, so not too much. A 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper. A 1/2 teaspoon of ground Mexican cinnamon, the one that's called canela. And a teaspoon of Mexican oregano. To that, we're going to add a 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Remember, this is a marinade, so it's going to carry a lot of weight of spice. Turn on the blender and blend everything until you get it as smooth as possible. This marinade needs to cool down now, and I always keep a jar of it in my refrigerator. That's what I would do. Scrape this into a jar, refrigerate it. It's the perfect marinade for steaks, chicken, fish, especially before they go onto the grill. Sometimes I'll stir this into a soup, maybe into a salad dressing, use it when I'm sauteing some potatoes or some greens. It's a great all-purpose red chili marinade. When this cools down, I'll show you how to turn that into chorizo. I have my ground pork here. The pork goes in there. 1.25 cups of this adobo is what I'm going to need for 1.5 pounds of ground pork. This stuff is really beautiful. A little paprika, 1/4 cup, and a half teaspoon of salt. Now that gets mixed until all of the meat has been thoroughly colored by that beautiful adobo. That is fresh chorizo. You might like the flavor a little better if you let it sit in the refrigerator covered for a day or two. It'll change a little bit, but you can use it just fresh like I'm going to do right now. I'm going to turn it into the very classic potato chorizo filling for tacos. I'm going to show you how to do it with sopes. I've got an onion chopped up here, small onion. And in this skillet, I'm going to film it with a little oil. Add the onion to it, about 2/3 of this freshly made chorizo. And I'm going to let that cook for about 10 minutes or so until the chorizo is thoroughly cooked through. And while that's cooking away over here, I have another little piece of potato to cube here. This will go into the pan, but I like to get it at least partially cooked before I put it in there. So I'm going to scoop it into a bowl and give it a quick blanch in the microwave. Just a tiny little bit of water, some plastic wrap to cover it, a couple of air holes in the top of it, and 3 minutes at full power. Chorizo looks like it's almost done. I know these potatoes are nearly done. I just want to tip off the water that I used to steam them in the microwave. And now add them to the skillet. I'll cook this now for 4 or 5 more minutes. Kind of mashing the potatoes a little bit into the mixture to ensure that this has a wonderful consistency. One of my favorite ways to serve potatoes and chorizo is on top of a little crispy sope. So let's step through how to make that. Of course, you've got to start with the same dough that's used to make corn tortillas, the masa. If you live near a tortilla factory, by all means, go there. Buy fresh ground masa because there's nothing like it in the world. For the rest of us, it'll be the powdered masa, and you can find that in so many grocery stores these days. Just reconstitute it with warm water according to the package directions. Now we have to first adjust the consistency of the masa, whether you buy it from a tortilla factory or have reconstituted the masa arena. You want it to be the consistency of a kind of soft cookie dough. Just a tiny little bit of water. Unlike corn tortillas, this dough we're going to season with a little bit of salt. And then I'm going to use my hand, which is the most useful piece of kitchen equipment for this task, to just blend that salt and that water into the dough. The great thing about working with masa is you can't overwork it. So once you've gotten it to this consistency here, now you notice when I put my thumb in there, it very smoothly separates. It does not cracking or breaking at all. I'm going to divide this now into 16 pieces. That's easiest to do if you just make a long log. And roll those pieces into balls. I'm working really quickly here. If you're doing this for the first time and sort of finding your way through it, be sure to keep this covered with a piece of plastic wrap or a damp towel. Now to the forming. Sopes essentially are a little thick, fat tortilla, what's called a gordita, that you partially bake and then pinch a little edge around to form a little boat. I'm using the classic cast iron tortilla press here, and I'm going to put a piece of plastic cut to fit the base of the press, then the ball of dough, then very gently press it out till it's about 3.5 inches across. Pull the top piece of plastic off. Flip your little gordita onto your palm and lay this down onto the griddle. I've been heating this for several minutes now so that it's really quite hot. Kind of medium to medium high heat is what I'm looking for. While that one is baking, I'm going to press out another one. When the first one has browned a bit on the other side, it's time to flip them. Your goal here is to get them browned on the outside but still raw on the inside. I'll show you why in just a second. It's just another minute on the other side. Make sure when you touch them that they don't feel too firm. And I'm picking these up and putting them onto a sheet pan here. But the next step has to be done while they're warm. You could let them cool off just a little bit. But while they're still warm, you need to do the pinching of the edge. I hold my thumbs almost touching, and with my index and middle fingers, I pinch up the border like that. Then turn your sope like that. So you're essentially grabbing some of the uncooked masa that's in the center and pulling it back to form that little edge on there. And you have what I consider the really classic sope shape. You can make these sope bases ahead of time. You can even put them in the refrigerator. Just make sure you always keep them covered with plastic because they can dry out really, really quickly. To finish the sopes, you do that right before you're ready to serve them, right before. I'm going to coat this pan with oil, and you want to heavily coat the bottom of the pan. I've got it over medium heat, and it seems like it's about the right heat now. You should hear a little sizzle when they drop in there, just like the street vendors. I like to take a little of that oil and get it up in the well just to soften it a little bit. I've rewarmed the chorizo potato mixture. When they're crisp underneath, drain them for just a second on paper towels. Transfer them to a serving plate. Spoon on a little salsa. I think the classic combination of tomatillo salsa and chorizo is an incredible match. A little bit of queso añejo over that. Finish off with a leaf or two of cilantro. And your beautiful little street stall snack is ready to eat.